Good evening and welcome to this edition of In Focus on Whitewater Community Television's WGTV Channel 11. It is our first In Focus candidate forum of the 2018 election cycle. We'll be going through a number of these coming up. First, I want to remind you that it's last call for 21 for Fun tickets. That's right. It's our annual fundraiser coming up next Saturday evening, April 7th, Forest Hills Country Club. Doors will open right around 5:30. We're serving dinner at 6. We'll do a little ask you for your money around 6:45, and at 7 o'clock the tables will open. You'll have a chance to play blackjack, craps, roulette. We'll also have a great band, a big band from students down at Indiana University Jacobs School of Music are coming up to give you some extra dancing. So when you feel like you want to leave the tables, you can go listen to some big band music, then go back to the tables. It's a fundraiser for WCTV. Obviously, we ask people not to sell, so we won't tell you the ticket price, but if you give us a call tomorrow at 973-8488, we'll be happy to tell you that and sell you tickets over the phone or send you to our website in order to pay for them. 21 for Fun happening next week. Again, you need to have your tickets in advance. You're used to probably walking up to the door, but because we've got a buffet dinner kicking off at 6 o'clock that evening, we need to have a head count. So definitely come out, enjoy it, and have some fun with us. I want to remind you that our In Focus candidate forums will continue, and in preparation for that, you want to get yourself registered to vote. Voter registration is continuing until April 9th. That's at the Wayne County Courthouse on the second floor, 301 East Main. You can also register online, indianavoters.com. If you need more information about being registered to vote, the number is there on the screen, 973-9304. Registration is open until the 9th. Even if you're not going to vote in the primary, you want to get a jump on this to make sure that you're ready for the general election. Then you won't, when I'm talking about it in the fall, you can look at your television and go, I got it, Eric, already there. So get registered to vote, please. Next week, we will have the Democrat candidates for District 6 here, beginning at 6 p.m. We'll go 90 minutes with them. Then on April 12th, Tyler will be hosting for us the Republican candidates for Indiana House of Representatives, District 54 and 56. And then following that, on the 19th, Republican candidates for Wayne County Sheriff. 3 of them will be here to take you through that. And then on the 26th, our final In Focus candidate forum will be the candidates running for Wayne County Council District 3. So those are the candidate forums. Of course, we will be here beginning at 6 p.m. on election night to take you through until we have the Wayne County results already in. During that evening, we'll talk to some of the party chairs, talk to some of the candidates that were not in contested races who you haven't had a chance to meet, both on the Democrat and the Republican side, and by then the Libertarian Party will have also had their state race, so we'll know who some of those candidates are. We've been in contact with the county party chair for the Libertarian Party, and we have invited him to come in and join us that evening, so hopefully we can find out who some of those candidates are that will be on the ballot. This is not a spectator sport. We hope that you will give us a call if you have a question for the candidates that we have tonight. You can give us a call, 973-8587. You can send a question through email, wctv@iue.edu, or send your question via tweet at WCTV Info. Tonight we have candidates running for District 6. Congressional seat on the Republican side. There are actually 5 candidates running, and we have 3 of those with us. Not with us this evening, Mike Campbell and Greg Pence. We do have Jonathan Lamb, Stephen McKenzie, and Jeff Smith, and we're going to give them each a couple of minutes to kind of introduce themselves in case you haven't had a chance to meet them yet, and we're going to start with Jonathan.
Yep, thank you. So Jonathan Lamb, like the barnyard animal.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm from Delaware County. I appreciate you having me here tonight. So I'm from a little town called Yorktown. It's exciting to be here. I think it's real important that we have these forums, and unfortunately we do have 5 people, but there's 3 of us here tonight, so thank you guys for joining us. Just want to tell you a little bit about myself and why I think I'm the most qualified to represent us in Washington, D.C. So my background has been in economics. I graduated from Yorktown High School, went to Ball State, have degrees in risk management and a degree in economics. After I graduated from Ball State, I went and worked in the power industry. I ended up running a multi-billion-dollar portfolio trading commodities. Worked on the trading floor for 8 years, but my family has been a family of entrepreneurs and farmers, and my wife and I became business owners, and we opened our first business. We've since started and grown and built 7 companies. Been very successful in the private sector, and people always ask me, why in the world do you want to go to Washington, D.C.? And my answer always is, I want to go to Washington, D.C. because Washington, D.C. is broken. And we're at this point now where, with our current congressman stepping up to run for Senate, we're going to get a new congressman here in the 6th District. So tonight this is very important to decide who's going to be our congressman, who's going to best represent us in the general election on the Republican side, and then ultimately who's going to best represent us in Washington. And I think that I have the background in economics and business to actually represent us in Washington. I've actually signed the front of checks, not just the back of checks. So I understand how the process works. I think I'll be a very effective freshman congressman that my other opponents won't be able to do that. I've built a wonderful team. Since I entered this race back in August, been 21,000 miles across this district, been to all 19 counties multiple times. And got to meet with Hoosiers and find out how I can better represent our district in Washington, D.C. So I appreciate you having me here tonight. And again, it's Jonathan Lamb, like the barnyard animal.
All right. Thank you, Jonathan.
Yeah.
Stephen McKenzie.
Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you for having this forum. It's an honor. And I'm running for this seat because I really believe in freedom. The last 2 decades, I've been in the Air Force. And I've seen firsthand what it's like to see freedom escape our grip and how we have to fight for it. And my family, 400 years ago, William Brewster was on the Mayflower. He came over on the Mayflower, was the elder of that group, and came here because he was pursuing freedom. 11 generations later, I was born. I'm 11th direct descendant of William Brewster. My mother shared that story with me so many times, my 3 brothers and I, because she wanted us to really appreciate what we have here in this country. An amazing experiment, but it's fragile, and we have to be willing to do everything we can to preserve it. And so growing up, for me, the very first taste I had of freedom and seeing how important it was to preserve it was I got to see a man speak named Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan, the first time he ran, I could not vote for him. I was in high school. My mother met him, though, and I got to spend time with a lot of people supporting him. And when I first voted for the very first time, it was 1984, I got to vote for him. He inspired me not only to give back to this country, but he also inspired me to serve my country. And for my honor in this world has been able to be here, to be able to serve and with 250 members of the military in the 6th District over in Operation Enduring Freedom, Iraqi Freedom, most recently Inherent Resolve. Just 2 years ago, I came back from the latest combat against ISIS. But I'm also in the private sector. I'm a reservist. Today, 2/3 of those fighting to defend our freedom are reservists. And we live with you. We're your neighbors. We're your brothers and sisters, and we actually go there to help protect you. But I've also been honored to be able to work in the business market, to be able to learn what it's like to be able to make a living and start my own business, most recently my wife and I. I went back to school, got my MBA. As a result of serving the military, I knew I needed to find a way to improve my education, but my opportunities. But for me, and I'll share more throughout this evening, I want you to think of one thing. Think about someone who walks into Washington that is broken, but like our president, President Trump, someone who's willing to stand up for what he believes and not cave to the special interests in the establishment. I'm battle-tested. I will only stand up for the forgotten men and women of the 6th District. That is my mission. That is my passion. I will not serve the party. I will serve the people. May God bless all of you for watching. Thank you.
Thank you. And Jeff Smith.
Thank you. I'm coming here tonight. My name is Jeff Smith. I'm running for the U.S. House of Representatives, and the key word there is representative. That means I will represent the people, not special interests, not big corporations, not multinational corporations. I think I'm very well suited to serve. I haven't signed any front of any paychecks, but I've been employed since 1980. I've signed many backs of paychecks, just like a lot of you folks out there that's watching tonight. Nothing wrong with, I'm glad that the businessmen do sign the front of checks. My blue-collar roots, I think, is well suited to this district because it's a blue-collar district. So my experiences of life and the struggles to pay bills, which I have had struggles to pay bills. I've lost jobs. I've had to search for jobs. So I think I'm down on the common level with most of the citizens of this district and the country in general. So myself, I think I'm a really good candidate to be there because I have no special interest with anyone. So whoever is elected is going to be bombarded with special interest groups as soon as the minute the ink dries on the confirmation of your ballot. So I would like to thank God first for living in this constitutional republic that gives us the opportunity to do this. And then I would like to thank Jesus Christ as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here. Thank you all for putting your name on the ballot. Greatly appreciate it. Our partners in the In Focus Candidate Forum has been for the last few years and is this year the Wayne County Area Chamber of Commerce. Glad to have Tyler Vanderpool back with us again. He's a veteran of a number of these, back representing the Chamber. Glad you're here.
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure.
And we're going to give Tyler first crack at the question.
Okay. Well, gentlemen, you all spoke about representing the people as opposed to the special interests. And as you know, one of the biggest pieces that we are faced with on all levels, not just a Richmond or a Wayne County problem, a national problem, is workforce development. You know, we really see that there's a tremendous issue with attraction and retention, and that's a national problem. So I guess the question is, what do you see, how do you see having an impact, a positive impact on the workforce development, on those folks, helping them attract and retain employees? Jeff, we'll start with you since we'll kind of move backwards.
Okay. Workforce development, I believe, begins in the high school. I know when I went to high school, not only they did promote college, they also promoted vocational trade schools as well. And I chose to go into the trades. I went into vocational school as a bricklayer, and I was a bricklayer for 15 years after graduation. Then I became a union carpenter for 13 years. So not only, I think our school administrators and business leaders has pushed college, and rightly so, but I think they've left the vocational school out of the picture. And our labor force is struggling to find tradesmen. You know, as a union carpenter, I made $25 an hour. And this was in 2008. That was my final wage before I went on into manufacturing. So the wages are there that will sustain families. So we need to promote not only our college, but like I said, vocational schools. There's $1.3 trillion in college student loan debt at this time. That's staggering. They graduate college and they can't buy a house, a car. They're living in their parents' house. So with our business leaders, my manufacturer, they actually send representatives out to colleges and universities, and they also go to the schools to try to encourage our students to get involved in STEM and the other academics. So it's going to take a partisan effort to develop our workforce, and I think we need to, like I said, develop our vocational school. I think that's lacking. So that's where I stand.
Okay, great, thank you. Stephen.
Thank you for the question. I would think the first thing is what our president's done this past year is giving back more money to the people. I think the oppressive tax burden upon not just only the business leaders, but the people, the average man and woman in this district, has been very difficult for them. And I think the first thing we need to do is give them more money in their pocket. But besides giving them more money back into their pocket, then how do we then empower them? How do we find ways to give them incentive, give them opportunity? I think there's certainly tax credits that we can provide for people to start their own businesses. For example, the last 5 years before I started my own company, I worked with franchisees all throughout this district and throughout the Midwest who are people just like you and me who want to have an opportunity to own their own business. And the Small Business Administration, the SBA, has great opportunities. I think we need to expand that to provide low-interest loans for average people who want to start a business. They could have a welding company. They could do something in the trades as a great opportunity. I work in my own company does a lot of manufacturing in the sign industry. So for me, that's another thing. Not only the tax incentive, providing credits that would be able to be used by individuals to get schooling and training in the trades, and then maybe by giving back those tax credits, they can then provide the companies that hire them will get an incentive and a reduction in their tax burden to be able to hire people and bring them into their companies. I think the other thing is what President Trump is doing, which I really support, is getting an equal playing field with all the tariffs. I've been around the world. I've seen every continent in my military service. And it's not a fair playing field. A lot of the reason the manufacturing jobs have left, not just the 6th District, but throughout the Midwest, is that we did not play fair with China, with Mexico. So I think, in my opinion, we need to also provide equal taxation and tariffs on both ends of the spectrum so that businesses have freedom to hire people.
Okay. Jonathan.
Yeah, well, I agree with what these guys are saying, some of them, but workforce development doesn't start in high school. It starts earlier than that. You know, we have to start early, and our governor has recognized that, and he's made it a top priority for the administration here in the state of Indiana, and I think that our administration in Washington has also recognized that that's the real problem. That's the number one problem that I meet with when I meet with Hoosiers around the 6th District is, you know, we have to have the workforce of tomorrow, and that's what it's about. So we need to make sure that people are trained for all levels. And college isn't for everyone. You know, Jeff's exactly right, and we need that. And I know firsthand. I owned a construction company. Like I said, I've started 7 different companies, and one of the other companies I owned was a plumbing company. And I know that how demand is there for those trades, and how we are lacking those skilled workers. So we need to develop that and hit that off. And it does start before high school. You know, by the time someone's a senior, it's too late. So we need to start developing that. And that's what we need is we need a representative for our district that's going to be able to go to Washington and fight for us and fight to make sure that those programs come back to our district, that we have programs in our state and in our district to help the workforce of tomorrow, for trades, manufacturing, and for all the education levels. But most importantly, too, we have to have good schools that people want to live here and actually work here. And these are the things that we need to have good representation for, and we need to send someone to Washington that's going to fight for us and fight for those values and be able to actually represent the people of the district.
Thank you, gentlemen.
As a follow-up to that, we actually invited people to send in questions ahead of time, and we got a couple of them that kind of fit into this realm. So if we could have that first chat question up. As a representative of Indiana, your job is to be the go-between in the global economy and the Hoosier workforce. What will you say about our state to global corporations? And Stephen, you get the first follow-up.
That's good. Our state has an amazing amount of resources that can provide opportunities for other countries and other places around the world to use our resources and collaborate together. Governor Holcomb has been traveling all throughout the parts of Asia and parts of India and all throughout the world, helping create new opportunities for our businesses. Corn, of course, is our #1 export. I think there's no question that we have opportunity to be able to, in the technology sector, it's amazing how through our great schools we have in the state, my daughter's a junior at Ball State, you clearly have opportunities that schools there, and Indiana State, of course, Purdue, and you can go online to IU. And the reality is we have so many good people, so many good, sharp minds, people that are not even going to college but have skills, that we need to be able to encourage other businesses, other states, and other parts of the world to say, you need to bring your businesses here because we have the workforce, we have the resources, we have a friendly climate in our government. Our government here, our state government, will work with them to provide the incentives to provide opportunities and jobs.
Yeah, well, I think this is why I'm uniquely qualified to go to Washington and represent us in Washington. Because I'm an economist, first of all. I got my MBA from North Carolina State. I've written a book on free market economics, and this is what I do and study. And this is why I was actually in the race. I sat on the Ball State University Economic Advisory Board, and the professors and I are part of this group, and other Ball State Econ grads, and we talk about these issues. And this is how I got encouraged to get involved in this, because I truly understand the global economy. And we live in this global economy now. We live in this ever-shrinking world. It's not growing, and we simply cannot live in a world of isolationism. So I'm going to have to take a difference to Stephen on some of the things that he said. And, you know, we have to be very, very careful, because we do trade with the world. And the economy that we have in Indiana, we get imports from around the world, but our manufacturing products go all around the world, all over the globe. And our exports agriculture is huge to our 6th district. We are, a manufacturing and agriculture-heavy district, so we have to make sure that we are fighting on a level playing field. There's no question about that. We need fair trade, but absolutely free trade is a key issue, and I uniquely understand that. I uniquely have the background in manufacturing and agriculture to be able to understand these things, and so that's why it's so important that we have a representative that gets it, because we have a global economy. It's the economy of tomorrow is here right now. And so we have to be real careful about our trade policy, and it has to be fair and on a level playing field. There's absolutely no question about that. And the President has done a good job of starting the process of negotiating some of our tariffs and treaties that weren't quite fair. But in the long run, we are a district that is heavily reliant on the rest of the world. And so we have to make sure that we have policy that can keep the jobs that we have here in the 6th district, but continue to grow those jobs as well.
We'll come back around. Jeff, give you a chance to answer.
Yes, we do live in a global economy, whether you like it or not. We cannot be isolationists for any means. I believe with these gentlemen here, we do need our fair trade instead of free trade. And I work for a multinational corporation, and we export our products to the world. And tariffs might be hurting my industry. So we really have to watch what we do with our tariffs, simply because the infancy of this republic, tariffs was there to, that's how we stocked our treasury. That's how we funded our government before income taxes. So tariffs, we have to use them wisely. It is a very important tool to use to balance out our free trade and fair trade. So Indiana's done a really good job of attracting multinational corporations, and I think that directly links to the question that was asked before about workforce development. If I want to build a plant and employ 1,500 people, I have to Indiana first has to prove to that multinational corporation that they can supply the 1,500 competent workers. If not, I'm sure they would shop to a different state. Indiana's done a very good job of doing this. The policies that's in place, I think, are very well situated for growth. And I think as we continue on the same track, I think we're going to be in good shape. Thank you.
We're going to go back around, and there was, if the last question could be put up, I'm going to go back around and give you another swing at it, maybe, because I think it was asking almost the idea, if you were going on one of these congressional junkets, I know that may be a bad thing, what would you say to global corporations about this state? You're the representative, so you're trying to help bring that company here. What do you say to them about this particular state? How do you entice them to come here?
Well, that's why it goes back to what I did say. Unlike what Mr. Lamb said, I did say that our state is so attractive. We have amazing exports, incredible amount of workforce, that government that's going to work with them, a very friendly environment, the Chamber of Commerce, the way they'll work with these other countries. I think that is an incentive. I just came back from China. I was just there 5 days ago with my company doing business in Indiana, also being able to get revenue from China to help our state. I was 3 weeks ago in London, in Denmark, helping bring business back to this state. So I understand the global economy. I understand how you have to be able to collaborate and work with them. But I do support President Trump. I am totally supportive of the fact that for the first time he's had the courage to stand up to these other countries and say, we need to have a level playing field. And yes, free trade, but fair trade. The NAFTA was not negotiated properly, in my opinion, an agreement that has hurt our economy and led to the decimation of the manufacturing sector. So we clearly need to be selling our state, selling the opportunities. I love this state. The last 20 years have been the greatest years of my life, living here with my children, have them grow up here, because it's a land of opportunity. So I will sell this state better than anyone, and I'm doing it. I'm currently in the middle of doing this around the world.
Want to take another swing? Want to pass?
No, absolutely. So unlike Stephen, my family's been here for 8 generations, and I actually live in the district, unlike Stephen. So I do have a unique perspective on what is going on in our state. And the beauty of the state of Indiana is we're the crossroads of America. And so that is our attractive. You know, we talk about the economy of tomorrow. A lot of that is in logistics and location, and that's where Indiana really shines. And we do have a great workforce. Can it be better? Absolutely. And that's what comes back to that first question. What do we do to develop our workforce to make it even more attractive to employers? And Indiana is on the right track. And we have great policies in Indiana. We have a balanced budget, and we're doing great financially in the state. And we have the infrastructure and we have the geographic location that makes it a great place to live and work. And that's why we've been here. My family's been here for generations, and that's why my wife and I choose to raise our children right here in the district and live in our district, because we have top-notch schools. And that's what we need to make sure, that we continue to have top-notch schools so people want to live here and work here, and it'd be a great community to raise a family. And that's what makes Indiana so great.
Take another shot.
Yes, I think you'd have to be a salesman, and my first sales pitch would be, you know, look at Purdue University, great engineering. Rolls-Holman, great engineering. You know, and then you take the 6th district, which mostly blue-collar workers. You know, you sell those, and I think you're going to be in good shape, because, you know, like I said, Indiana's already done a great job of this, attracting the corporations. So simply, like I stated before, staying on the right track. What we're doing now, you would just have to simply be a salesman and point out all the good plus the bad that might occur when you're trying to attract a company. So there's nothing hidden there. So open and honest dealings will work all the time. Thank you.
I just have a quick question, just to kind of as a follow-up. Just one piece from each of you guys. What do you think is a differentiator between Indiana and our other competition on a national scale? What would you say? Just one piece. Jonathan, go ahead.
We're fiscally solvent. We have a great state. The greatest thing that ever happened to Indiana was Illinois. You know, we are a great state. We have great taxes, a great working environment. Go try to start a corporation in Indiana. It's simple. They've made the process so simple. You can go online and register your LLC, your business, very easy. It has a great working climate, a great workforce, great taxes. It's a great place to raise a family.
Okay, go ahead. Stephen.
Yeah, I would have to say, for me, it's clearly starting a business here is incredibly easy, which I've done with my wife last year, and employing and working with many people in the 6th district. It's a great opportunity and honor in my life to do that. I think that we have an attractive environment. It started with Mitch Daniels. Let's go back to who really deserves credit. We were in a mess before Mitch Daniels became governor. Mitch Daniels was an amazing man, an incredible man to help refine our economy, improve our environment, make it attractive again. And we saw our vice president take the baton and take that baton and move forward, and has passed it on to Governor Holcomb. And I think we have that amazing story to tell. Unlike the states around us, like Illinois, that is the brunt of so many jokes, we are not only fiscally solvent, we're skyrocketing to the next level. We have so many opportunities to bring in new businesses and opportunities.
Okay, thank you. Jeff?
I would simply say, when I went to file for this office, on the writing on one of the buildings in the background, Indiana, the state that works. And that's putting it simply, and through the past administrations, that statement is true. And, you know, being fiscally solvent, very important, like Jonathan said and Stephen said. You know, so just continue on the same track. Take this to the other states. You know, let them learn off of what the success that Indiana has seen and grown. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
You're watching the In Focus Candidate Forum on Whitewater Community Television's WGTV Channel 11. We're joined by our partners from the Wayne County Area Chamber of Commerce. Candidates tonight running for Representative District 6, 3 of the 5 candidates, Jonathan Lamb, Stephen McKenzie, Jeff Smith.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much for being here with us.
Thank you.
You all kind of talked a little bit about being a representative. Want to kind of throw a hypothetical out there. As representatives, you would be sending out, trying to find out what the voters think. Let's assume you send out a questionnaire and it comes back 60-40 one way, but it's not the way that you thought it might be. You're leaning more toward the 40% side, the party's leaning more toward the 40% side, but 60% of your constituents say, this is where we want you to be. How do you make the decision, and who wins? Start with you on this
It's
one.
definitely a case by case. The beauty thing, I think all of us here, we're not beholden to special interest, and so we're going to be able to actually vote for what is best for our district. And that's why it's important. That's why they call it a representative. Jeff hit that nail on the head right when we began this debate. So you have to actually vote with your district. You have to listen to Hoosiers, and that's what I've done. That's why I've been 21,000 miles since this journey has started, since I entered this race back in August, and have met with so many Hoosiers, have met in all 19 counties and sat down with economic development offices and chambers of commerce and business leaders and manufacturers and across all the sectors. And that's what our representative is. We represent our district. We don't represent special interests. We're not beholden to anyone. And I think that's the beauty of this process, and what's so important for the voters when they decide who they're going to elect come May 8th is they need to elect someone that's going to represent them in Congress. And then this is our district at the end. I mean, Jeff and I live in our district, and so it's really important that we have someone in our district that's going to fight for us.
How do you make the final call?
It's-
You believe something that the majority of your district doesn't. How do you weigh that and make that final call?
It's the district. It's the representation of the district.
Okay. Yeah.
Not only would I read and try to understand the questionnaire that I had sent out, I would also maybe make some phone calls, visits with the counties themselves. And then that's a tough call. You want to go on your convictions. I have strong convictions on a lot of issues. I'm sure all of us do. But ultimately, Jonathan's right. You have to go with what the district, what the people want. That is why our founding fathers started this republic. We the people, not we the corporation, we the congressman my way or no way. You represent the people. So I would have to go with what my constituents would say. But I would go not just like I said, not just with the questionnaire. You'd have to go in more into research, not just base your opinion off of what you get back. So there's some people that might not have sent the questionnaire out. What is their voice? So you would have to go and seek out more than just say 50% of the people sent back your questionnaire, and then you had a 60-40. So that would be an unfair or an unwise decision to make it just on that. Like I said, you need to seek. I think our representatives need to seek out the constituents more to have a feel for what they actually do think, instead of what is just in a poll or on a particular questionnaire. We've all seen polls not be right. Look at the last presidential poll. Very skewed in one way from the pollster, but the results was clearly other results. Thank you.
Steve.
Well, for me, what dictates what I do in my life goes to my faith. I mean, I'm a born-again Christian, so for me, growing up with that component of my life does dictate how I make decisions. And I also am a constitutionalist. I'm a constitutional conservative, and I believe the Constitution should be the ultimate final say. And so I am not someone who's lived my life by polls. I believe ultimately that the American people will make the decision. If they don't believe a candidate or representative represents what they want, then they will vote that person out. But if you go onto my website, McKenzieforCongress.com, you'll see the key issues that I believe in, that I would die for. And I've had to face that decision in battle. So I understand these issues to me are very serious. When I talk about the Second Amendment, the Constitution, not letting that become a flexible document, limited government, giving back the power to the people. Those things to me I won't change. And if there's something, a poll comes down that conflicts with who I am and what I've already promised the people. If they decide all of a sudden in a poll that they no longer want to have the Second Amendment, I won't change my belief because a poll says that. I'm going to stay true to what I believe because my core does not change. And I'm willing to negotiate on issues that are flexible. So there's plenty of issues that aren't listed in those 8 issues on my website. And I'm willing to negotiate. And I do it all the time in my job. With 3 children, you have to negotiate. Being married, you have to learn to negotiate and compromise. And so I would be willing to do that in Congress, but I would never be willing to sacrifice my own moral compass, my own convictions. As I've said, it's, Daniel, our youngest, was born here. Stephen was only a year old when I moved here, and Jessica was 3, now she's 21. And I've had the greatest honor of my life to serve with 250 members of the military in the 6th District and had to face life and death decisions many times, knowing that these people had my back. And so that comes down to one last thing I want to say is my my theme for this race is I'm the candidate in the 6th who has your 6. I truly, among all the candidates, understand what it's like to go in battle. I know what it's like to stand up with resolve and not compromise and defend the people around me. So I have the 6. I have the back of the 6th District. I won't let other people buy me out or sell them out just to get a new opportunity or get a new donation.
Okay. You're watching the In Focus Candidate Forum on Whitewater Community Television's WGTV Channel 11. You can send us a question via email, wctv@iue.edu. You can give us a phone call, 973-8587, or like our next question that came in, you can send it through Twitter @WCTV Info. We want to get as many of those questions in as we possibly can, even beyond what myself or Tyler have on the page. So let's go to that next question. Do you currently reside in the congressional district you're running in? Okay, that's kind of come up twice, so
Sure.
I think we start down here with this one. Do you reside in the district?
Yes, I do. And I've lived here since '92. I moved in from Ohio, so when I first moved in, some of my friends and family would call me transplant. I'm a transplant, but I think I've lived here long enough now to actually be a Hoosier. So, yes, I live down in Liberty. Thank you.
This is a great question. I think it's something that people like to bring up a lot with me. We're building a home in the 6th District. I've lived here for 20 years, 19, almost 20. When I moved here, it was the 6th District. It's now shifted. The borderlines has probably shifted again in 2020. But one thing I'm also very glad is that the Founding Fathers specifically never made that a requirement. And anytime someone brings this up, especially the fact that I will never live in D.C., like our Vice President did and Luke Messer, and so many other members of Congress go live in D.C. I will never leave the 6th District. I'll never live there because it's more comfortable. And I think people, when they ask this question, need to ask our Vice President why he didn't live in a 6th District when he ran for it. He lived in Greenwood and rented a house in the 6th District. Why Diego Morales lives in Muncie and doesn't live in the 6th District. Why Luke Messer doesn't live in the 6th District. Why Todd Rokita doesn't live in the 6th District. I think the reason why is those lines change all the time. But what comes down to this, what are your core convictions? Are you, and I truly am committed to the Hoosier values. I'm not someone who moved to, and I didn't spend the last decade in North Carolina. I've spent the last 20 years here because I care for you and I love you and I give my life for the people in this district. I'd be willing to sacrifice anything to protect your interest. And thank God for the Constitution that makes this very clear.
Okay. Jonathan.
Yeah, I live in the 6th District. I live in Yorktown, Indiana with my wife, my 2 boys. I have a 4-year-old and an 8-year-old boy. Yeah.
Okay. Next question.
Okay. Obviously, in the past couple of years, there have been some pretty significant divisive issues on a national scale.
Really? You're going to
go
go
like that? That's good. I've waited I don't know, half hour. So, one of the pieces that I'm sure there's a lot of interest in is your thoughts on the role the government plays currently going forward, what you believe in immigration. Obviously, there's been a tremendous amount of press, a tremendous amount of activity when it comes to immigration. So I guess it's a pretty simple question. What are your feelings? What are your feelings as a representative of the 6th District, but what do you believe federally on the government level we need to be looking at when it comes to immigration? I think we're probably ready to start with you, John.
So I think there was a 2-part question, a lot on the federal government.
Yes.
First of all, I'm a limited federal government guy. I believe in a smaller central federal government. Immigration is one that there's really a 2-part. It's the immigration story, but also having a safe, secure border. And that's what we really are talking about here. We want to make sure that we have folks that pay taxes that are citizens, but we want to make sure that we don't have violent criminals coming across our border. But really, when it comes down to our 6th district, what we want to make sure is, our communities have been plagued by an infusion of drugs. We have to declare a war on drugs. And those drugs are coming across our southern borders mostly, but they're coming in through our ports. And so we need to make sure that we have a safe, secure border from illegal immigrants and keeping out violent criminals. But we want to also make sure that we have a protected border that is making sure that stuff that we don't want to come into our country and into our district stays out of it. And so that's why I think the president has really been firm that we do need a secure border. And this is why the American people say we do need a secure border, and we do. And we need representation that's going to fight for us to make sure we have a secure border, because that is a big factor to making sure that our communities right here in the 6th district, that we don't have drugs flowing into them, because those drugs are coming from all over the world.
Sure. Thank you. Jeff?
Yes. In 2012, President Obama enacted DACA, but there was a fatal flaw in the DACA agreement. It did not provide a clear and concise pathway to citizenship for the recipients. So moving forward, we need to define a clear and concise path. We need to provide them with a path to citizenships. I believe in legal migration, not illegal. And then also the DACA recipients, they have to hold up their end of the deal as well. We provide them a path to citizenship with a certain time limit. They hold up their end of the bargain. We've all probably seen on the news where the DACA protests, some of the people they interview, they've been here 15 years, 18 years. I'm a college senior now. I've been here since I've been 2. Well, that's way too long. If you want to come to this country, I applaud you. It's the greatest country on earth. But when you get here, you need to actually work to become a citizen and not stay an illegal alien. That way, you can help promote this country and be a part of it. So that's my stance.
Well, I think this really lends itself to my strength. Clearly, national security, homeland security is something I'm very well acquainted with. I deal with it every month when I'm at my base, when we have to do our briefings, when I've had to go into the front lines in battle. For me, I understand this is a sensitive issue, and I do appreciate anyone who wants to come to this country. But I believe we need to call a spade a spade. They're not undocumented immigrants, they're illegal immigrants if they don't come here through the legal pathway. We have a border for a reason we're supposed to. We have an immigration process we're supposed to. And for people that don't follow the rules, then I don't believe you should ever give them the right of citizenship. And so this is an issue that goes back to my hero, Ronald Reagan. In 1986, he made the worst decision he made as president. He agreed to the Immigration Act, which he was promised if he made 3 million illegal immigrant citizens that they would secure the border. What happened? They never secured the border. And I believe giving the DACA individuals who you can have compassion for them, certainly, to let them become citizens is a problem. I think what you need to do is provide with them an opportunity to become a legal citizen, a status as a legal citizen, and then get to the end of the line and apply legally to become a citizen. But I don't think you should waive that process. I do believe there's too many problems with legal immigration currently in our country. 1,000 investigations are being undertaken right now by Homeland Security because of these illegal immigrants that are actually threatening our safety. So I believe we need to stand firm, build that wall. That wall has to be built. I've seen walls everywhere around the world in countries that are safe, and we need to be safe.
I have a quick follow-up to that. Do you feel like we've done enough to facilitate legal citizenship? We'll just start back around with you, John.
Well, it's certainly a big issue to make sure, because we need workers, as we talked about earlier. Workforce development is an issue. And as Jeff said, hey, we should welcome people that come here legally to come here. Have we done enough? No, we can always do more. And that's what we need to do. And I think that it's a discussion that we have to take up, because we have to do more. And we have to have a way for folks that want to come here and pay taxes to do that?
I support the RAISE Act. Senator Tom Cotton has brought up a brilliant plan to really revise and I think reform our immigration process. No question, it's cumbersome. It's 70 years old. I think what we need to do is provide a streamlined process, but it should be based on merit. I think we should end shame migration. We shouldn't let people come in just because a family member comes in. My wife's Hispanic. This is a very sensitive issue to me. And it's amazing. Her family came here legally from Mexico. And the people that you talk to, the Hispanics that I know very well, do not really take it very well to people think they should be given a free pass. Should we revise the immigration process? Yes. But part of the reason we have a problem is we've let so many come through the border illegally that they've overrun ICE, and we don't have the manpower to deal with that. So what we need to do is actually limit the flow of migration and then be able to vet those people properly.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yes, I agree with some of Stephen's points. Vetting is a very important process, of our immigrants, and it should not. It's called illegal for a reason. That means it's against the law. That's a non-debatable word, and I think we can come together to solve the immigration crisis. And like I stated earlier, DACA, it had a flaw in it. It did not provide them a legal pathway to citizenship. And in some ways, I don't know how hard it is to become a citizen, but it must be harder than not becoming a citizen, because the illegal aliens are, like Stephen said, here they coming across, and they never want to become citizens. Why don't they want to become citizens? So there is ways that we just need to make it legal. In the 1800s, all the migrants, I don't know the policy back then, but maybe we could revisit some of those. What worked back then may work today, and it might not. But illegal alien is a problem in this country. So, I think there is opportunities to get together to make it legal. That's the key word there, I think, legal. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen.
You're watching the In Focus Candidate Forum on Whitewater Community Television's WGTV Channel 11, talking with candidates running for the 6th Congressional District on the Republican side, Jonathan Lamb, Stephen McKenzie, Jeff Smith. Gentlemen, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
We're asking you to send in questions via Twitter at WCTV Info, by email, wctv@iue.edu, or by giving us a phone call, 973-8587. Twitter, wish I had my phone, must be burning up. We got another question from Twitter, so we're going to take that and put it up right now. How much money have you raised for your campaign, and who has donated to your campaign? You are probably not going to be able to provide us a list, but I think most of you have talked about how you're raising some of your money, so I'll give you a couple of minutes to kind of talk about your belief in that system, and I think we start back here with Jeff.
Well, that's going to be a pretty easy question for me to answer. I have raised zero amount of dollars. I'm self-funding this campaign. And my thought behind that is, I don't want to be beholden to any one donor. I'm not saying that occurs, but I'm saying it does occur. So, I'm as probably grassroots as it's going to get in any probably political campaign in the United States, I would say. My budget's going to vary. So far I've spent $500. I've looked to start a website. And I was waiting until after Easter to actually really start campaigning, maybe put a Facebook page up. And my daughter's going to help me with that. I'm not that computer friendly, but it's very limited budget. And I think that's going to play well for me, simply because if I do get elected, I would not have anyone in my back pocket, so to say. I'm not saying that either one of these men would have that occur. But with big-time political donations, we all know that there will be big-time favors. Not always, but that does occur. So I will not be beholden to any special interest group that has given me money, any big corporation, to no one. I'll be beholden to myself and to the voters. So that's my campaign finance right there. Thank you.
I love this question. This is a great one because it really highlights the corruption in this political process. It really exposes the swamp, people call it, but I think even more so as a sewer. The political process is rife with corruption because people have quid pro quo. You give me money, I give you a favor. I vote for a bill. I'm sure these gentlemen can see that very clearly. If you're not independently wealthy, or if you don't have connections to D.C. or other key individuals, then it can be very challenging. And so, this has been a fascinating experience, and it just exposing what our president has shared about how we need to change people in D.C., have people there that are only beholden to one thing, to people. And for example, and I'm going to say this very clearly, a congressman who a lot of you respect, Marlon Stutzman, told me months ago, Stephen, get out of the race, endorse Greg Pence. All the donations will come to you in a future race. Why don't you run another district? It'd be a lot easier. We just don't want you to get in the way. Rex Early told me January 4th, Stephen, why don't you get out of the race? If you get out of the race, we'll help you in another race. We'll give you more donations. We'll get people to back you. But if people donate to you now, Stephen, they've been told they're blacklisted. If their name goes on FEC filing. And so you know what that means? I had a choice to make. Was I going to compromise and give up this run because I was being pressured by the swamp, the sewer? No way. Because I believe I'm running for one thing, to support our freedoms, to defend the people in this district, and make sure the forgotten men and women actually have a representative that will own only one thing. They'll own one person, that's them. And so that's why I'm doing this. And that's why, I don't have a lot of money. It's my family. We've invested significant dollars in this experience. But what we're going to do is continue to run to the very end and give everything we have to reach the people and care for them.
Jonathan.
Yeah, these guys are right. Fundraising is a big part of it, and it's very expensive to endeavor in this, and this is why so few people actually get in these races, and why the special interest money flows in, because they tend to try to elect who they want to elect. And it is called the swamp for a reason, because we have people in there that get in there and they stay in there and they have their votes purchased. I'm also not beholden to special interest money. My family and I have been very blessed and been very successful, so I'm also self-funding my campaign primarily, but we have lots of small grassroots donors from all over the district that have said, you know what, it's time for change in Washington. We need new leadership. We need new blood. We need people that are business owners and leaders like our president has. He inspired me when he put his business interests on the side, on hold, and I've done this. I've stopped to dedicate my life to this. I'm not running my companies right now. I'm out campaigning and meeting with Hoosiers in the 6th District. Through the last FEC filing, we were able to raise a little bit over $500,000. The new FEC filing ends coming up here at the end of the month, which is just in a few days. And we are in a good position that we can get our message out to voters and say enough's enough and we need change.
Thank you. The topic is guns. The topic always seems to come back to guns. I believe you're all Republicans. I believe that you all believe in the Second Amendment. If you feel like you need the soundbite to say it, go for it. But believing in the Second Amendment, believing that we have the right to bear arms, does that mean that we have the right to own any gun that a gun manufacturer can make, regardless of why they make it? Talk to us about your belief in the Second Amendment, the guns that are on our streets, particularly what some of the students at Parkland and other places have had to go through, and how do we deal with this issue? And I think we get to start with you.
Sounds great. This is one that I really appreciate. I'm a lifetime concealed carry member. I'm an expert marksman in the military. I understand how to use a weapon in self-defense and how to use it to save your life. And I was taught from my father, who's an Eagle Scout, how to use a weapon responsibly. I believe we need to have responsible gun owners, people to understand that it's a serious issue to own a gun. But I don't believe we should restrict the right to bear arms. I believe that's a slippery slope. Once you start selecting certain weapons or certain guns that you don't believe are acceptable, you now open the door to ultimately affecting the most treasured right along the First Amendment to be able to bear arms. The reason the founding fathers put it in the Constitution is they put that in there so that people would have a right ultimately to be able to keep the government in check. And so I think the reality is we have the ability to defend our own families. I can defend my family. My wife's also an expert marksman. My children have been taught how to use firearms. I think this issue of schools is another one that's very critical. I don't believe that if you continually have gun-free zones like schools, and you say, let's take away more responsible gun owners, take their guns from them, that somehow schools now be protected. Criminals will find guns. Where we make a mistake, in my opinion, is that we then let criminals go to gun-free zones and say, no one can defend themselves. I can take out innocent people like Parkland, which is horrific. I think we need to do one thing. We need to take funding that goes to sport programs like football and baseball and have that self-funded through parents and through fundraising, but take that money and put it back into the defending schools and providing a safe environment for them. You can provide, and I know they've done this in Israel, I've seen it around the world. You can put a metal detector at each door, also provide individual members in the school. Maybe you have 1 per 500 that's actually concealed carry, that's trained to use a gun responsibly. Veterans like me, people that have served our country, could go defend the schools and actually work there, and then provide a way to let kids know, or evil people, if you come to this school, you will be taken down. You will not walk into this school and to threaten the lives of my kids or any other children in the 6th District. I think we need to have a strong posture. We can't, these people that are criminals, all they're going to try to do is they're going to continually go to places that are vulnerable. They're cowards. They don't try to hurt people. They don't go into a police station. They don't go to a military base. They go to schools. They go to libraries. They go to theaters. So therefore, I think we need to be more vigilant in protecting people by having responsible people in those environments to protect our kids and others.
Yeah, it is, as you said, a Republican issue. It kind of makes you, one of the things that makes you a Republican is how you feel on the Second Amendment. And absolutely, it's a granted constitutional freedom for us. And I grew up hunting and fishing, and I too have been taught responsible gun ownership, and I too teach my children responsible gun ownership.
Yes, I too believe in the Second Amendment. I think they wrote the Second Amendment to protect the First Amendment. So, responsible gun ownership is the key here. I know both of my children, Zach and Jessica, they went to Union County High School. And I believe when they was in elementary school, they actually got taught water safety, fire safety, and they actually got taught firearm safety in school. Oh my gosh, now that's a stop the world now. How dare, you teach responsible gun ownership. They teach our sex ed in school because it's a health issue. Well, some of the pundits are screaming guns are a health issue. Well, let's do something about it. Let's teach our gun safety like they should be.
If I have to wait 3 days, do a background check if I go into a retail shop to buy a gun, why should it be different if I go to the fairgrounds to a gun show? Just out of curiosity.
This is one area where I would stand up and say, let's be consistent. And I know it's challenging for the NRA. I'm a lifetime member of the NRA. But the reality is this, let's just be consistent. Let's make it the same across the board. If you have to wait like I did when I bought my firearm and go through a process, a cooling off period they call it, let's do the same thing at gun shows. And so if you buy a gun, maybe then it's actually you pick it up at another date or it's shipped to you. My gun was shipped to me, the most recent one that I purchased. I think let's be consistent. Let's have the same rules apply wherever you purchase that gun.
Agree?
I agree. Yeah, I agree that we need consistent laws. I don't think we need more laws and more regulations, but consistency would be one, and it's certainly, I back the president that he has put some things out on the table for negotiation, and I too am a lifelong NRA member, and so we have to have that consistency, and I would agree with Stephen on that issue.
Anything?
Yes, I would have to disagree with Stephen and Jonathan on that one. To me, that's just more government red tape that someone would have to go through. Sure, someone, say, go to the fairgrounds or a flea market, they're going to buy a gun. If they don't get it there, if they're that angry at the world or want to harm someone, whether they get it at the gun shop and wait 3 days for it, or whether they go down to a flea market and pick it up there, it's not going to stop their motives. the weapon, the gun, is just a tool that an individual uses to carry out his violence. So I disagree with that. You know, like I said, less government red tape there. So that's my stance on that issue.
You're watching the In Focus Candidate Forum on Whitewater Community Television's WGTV Channel 11, a service of WCTV and the Wayne County Area Chamber of Commerce. I'm joined by Tyler Vanderpool, representing the Wayne County Area Chamber. I think we have another chat question. I had something in my ear, so if we can get that last one up that we have. How are you going to relate to new voters? How are you going to relate to new voters? And one of the things that is coming along as 18-year-olds reach that age, they get to register, come out and vote. Some of them over the last few weeks have been showing themselves out very strongly, so there could be a lot of new voters around the country, potentially. Whether they show up at the polls is always still the question. But how do you talk to the young people about the issues that you believe in right now?
Well, I think it is a huge issue because I think that that's the beautiful thing about a Republican primaries. We're all here Republicans, and we all pretty much have the same sort of common views. And so it's important that during the course of a primaries, we pick the candidate that's best to go to us in the general election to fight who that ultimate opponent will be on the Democrat ticket. And I think that I'm that candidate because as a 36-year-old with 2 small children, you know, I have seen this. I have concerns for my children that are in school, obviously. And as an economist, I know the global economy. I know what's on the mind. I know what it's important to start a business. And as someone that has, gotten my MBA and been through school, I can relate to what it's like to have student loans. And so I have that gap and that bridge. And so that's how I think I can relate with today's new voters.
Okay, I think it all goes back to the representation part that we all are applying for this job and through the work of the primaries. Simply meet the people. I haven't had the chance to visit all 19 counties like Jonathan has. I still am a full-time blue-collar worker. Or Stephen, he's traveled the world. I applaud both these men for being here tonight and doing what they do for this great republic. But I would take a pledge as a representative to meet the people, not only the voters of every county, but go into some of the high schools. The youth voice is very important. They are our future. The recent rallies in D.C., it proves the point. They want to be heard as well. So as a representative, we just don't need to park our butts in Washington, D.C. and do our policy from there. In the early times of the republic, I know times has got busier. They would meet just a short period of time at the Capitol. The rest of the time, the representative was going through his district, talking to the people, meeting the people, eating dinner with them, breakfast, maybe going to a event with them, the fairs and stuff. So you have to get out to meet the people. I'm a past usher of a church, and it was my job to meet and greet the people as they came in, and I think that's where you learn most of what somebody is about, is when you stick your hand out and you shake that hand, you look them in the eye, and you can talk to them personally. Not, and we talked about polls and stuff. I would not be a poll reader. I would be a person greeter. That's where you're going to find that we need to address. And the youth are very important. Like I said, visit the high schools. I don't know if our congressman has visited a high school. I hope he has. I don't know. I don't know. Is the other 400? There's 435 congressmen. I hope every one of those 435 congressmen has visited their district, has went to a high school, has went to a fair. Have they? I doubt some of them probably have not. So that's where I would be, beating the path to the voters and the future voters.
Steve? I think this demographic, the kids and the young people, I have a special affection for them. All three of our children are teenagers. Jessica actually just turned 21. She's an adult. But two of them will be voting for the first time, which is awesome. As a father, it's a great honor to know that they can vote and support me. And I think that gives me a unique opportunity to understand this group. As you know, if you're a parent and you see teenagers, it's a whole different ballgame as they get older. Your children are much older, and yours are coming in that line of that. So I think for me, learning to live with them and understand them has really helped me. I think uniquely qualifies me to connect to that generation, that demographic. And as I've traveled through every county, I've seen so many great kids. Tyler Winger's one I'm going to mention, give a shout out to him from Newcastle. Great kid, a senior. He has so many dreams and goals, and he's been an amazing volunteer. But he says he's so motivated to defend our freedom and support the 6th District because of me, and it's humbling. And I want to reach more kids like that, more girls and boys and others, and help them, inspire them.
Okay, thank you. We are under 25 minutes left to go, so
Yes.
just so you know.
Home stretch.
Home stretch.
Now it's time for the good questions.
Yeah.
We've had lots of different questions on the economic front, the political front. I
Sure.
think the social front is something that has been exciting, I guess is a good word. Gender equality has been pretty part of the forefront of a lot of conversations. I guess my question would be, what do you see from the 6th District to the federal level? Do you see, if any, your role in addressing the issue, specifically gender equality? I think we'll start with Jeff.
I think it's Jeff.
Yeah,
Jeff
Jeff.
starts.
I'm looking at you, Jonathan, but it's
Yeah,
you.
I didn't know who was turning was here.
Yeah, we're tightening
I'll
it
take it, but
We're tightening it down.
I was hoping to get one of these other two men first, but
It gets a lot rougher from here on out.
that's me.
And you may see me waving you off a little bit as we try to move through this time.
Yeah.
So
Thank you, Eric.
keep
Yes.
going.
Gender equality. Yes, I think all human beings need to be treated as equals. No one should be abused because of their gender or harmed because of their gender. And I'm sure, throughout the history of the world, there has been gender equality issues, and they still are today. I try to treat every human being with respect and dignity that they deserve. As far as the gender equality, I'm sure it still occurs, probably in paychecks and whatever. But the corporation that I work for, there is no gender differences. A woman that got hired yesterday, they come up through the pay ranks, they're going to make exactly what I make. There's no distinction there. And I think some of the polls, which I'm not, let me rephrase that. Some of the gender equality issues is sometimes the women are more in some of the service jobs. So sure, on the paycheck side, it's going to say, yeah, they only make 71% of what men do. I think that's skewed somewhat because nowadays I think the women in the workforce and men, it's equal across the board. I mean, I'm sure there are some not there, but generally I believe it's equaled out pretty well. Thank you.
Steve.
Yes, I would say for me, one of the greatest things in my life has been to be around strong, competent, powerful women who really exude that level of competency. My wife is very talented. She's a horse vet, works for the largest veterinary group in the country to help other veterinarians who are struggling. And she's very articulate, incredibly gifted. My mother was an amazing teacher, very talented. My grandmother was one of the first women professors of her day. And so for me, I have a long line of those in my life that I respect and admire, that I believe that we should be treated fairly, that women and men honestly should be given a fair shot. I don't believe in having things determined just because you are a man or woman. I think it should be based on competence. I think just as the same thing with race. I think whoever's the most talented individual, who cares about your religion, your sex, your orientation, it should be based on your competency. If you are the most competent person, you should have a shot, woman or man. And the last company I served with before I started my company, a CEO, she was an amazing woman, Catherine Monson. And she rose up from very humble upbringing to be able to rise to the level she was at, because there's opportunity in America, and I believe we should give opportunity for everyone.
John.
I would echo those same feelings that, certainly we have an issue that we need to talk about in this country, and it can always be improved. And I know that I'm a product of very strong women, both my mother and my grandmother, but my wife, and the amazing job that she does with our children and raising those. She's been an elementary teacher, and then we work side by side in businesses together. And she's wonderful, and we need to continue to work. We need to make sure that we create STEM programs that women can go into the workforce and some other jobs, and we encourage them in the maths and sciences, because as we worked about our workforce issue, we talked about that. We need to make sure that women have those opportunities to pursue those same careers that men currently do, and we need to make sure that they get paid for a day's work, just like any of their peers. And so, yeah, we can do better.
I'm going to kind of follow up on this real quickly, and then I think we've got a couple of Twitter questions that have come in. And I wasn't going to throw this out there, but it's there. We're talking about equality. So let's go to the military. The president has made a suggestion that we ban transgender people from being part of our military service. We have limited the roles that women can play in the military. The military is voluntary. So no one has to be there. They choose, as you well know, thank you very much, to go in and to serve this country. Should we be limiting roles of people in the military? Should we be banning people from the military? You started, and you get to start this one.
I definitely want to talk about this one. Trust
I
me.
thought you might want to.
Yes, I would. The military is not a place for social engineering. The reason we have the most amazing military in the world is for one purpose: to protect you. It is to make sure you are safe and that we prevent threats from taking away your freedom. Therefore, when we introduce things like the transgender issue, you are compromising the mission when now you have a conflicted environment. I know by being in the band of brothers and sisters, a lot of great women are now serving in combat. It's a very unique environment. But to bring in a situation where you have people that don't truly know their identity is very challenging. It's hard enough to function when you're threatened with your life. What you don't want to do is have anything else take you from that mission. And therefore, I agree with General Mattis. I met an amazing man, our Department of Defense Secretary. We love him. I love President Trump because he's willing to put the mission first. I think because it is voluntary, it's not mandatory. I think we need to bring in people truly that are the best, that are willing to submit to the current environment. And I support the way it's going now, definitely.
That'd be one that I think is best suited for our generals and those in charge to answer. Stephen obviously has been there, and he has worked alongside folks in combat and in situations, and that's one that our generals and our leaders in the military, for them to decide.
But it wasn't our generals necessarily, it was the president.
Right. Yeah,
Okay.
That was an executive branch.
Okay.
But gets decided from the generals.
I will agree with Stephen on this point. Social engineering does not belong in the military. We're the protectors of the freedom of the world, and I do honor every man and woman that wants to join and serve our military. Thank you very much. However, since we've introduced women into the service, that's opened up a whole new can of worms with the sexual relations issue, with sexual abuse and stuff like that. So, that is actually distracting from the mission that Stephen talked about. So we really have to be careful when we do take on subjects like this, or actually try to social engineer, as Stephen said, because there could be unintended consequences that could really destroy the morale and the social fabric that our military men and women deserve. I'm sure in some situations it's turned to hostile environment towards other individuals, and it could be a detriment to our fighting men and women. So I trust Trump and General Mattis that on this matter. I'm not a military expert, so sometimes you just have to trust your leaders. Thank you.
I just want to address the one issue because I know a little bit of an inside understanding of this issue is we did have directives come down from Department of Defense and our leadership, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, recommending what the President just did. So he's really supporting what the generals and the commanders felt was best for the military as a whole. It was not about singling out a group and saying they were not valuable. It's about the mission, and I think that's the most important thing.
I don't normally inject myself, but as the
Yes.
only black man in the room, that was also stated a number of years ago. And I think Colin Powell might have a problem with it. Just throwing that out there on the table.
understand. Thank you,
You're
sir.
watching the In Focus Candidate Forum on Whitewater Community Television's WGTV Channel 11. We are in probably our last 15 minutes or so, and we've had a couple of questions come in off of Twitter. So let's go to the first one, please. Should Congress have to vote to declare war as the Constitution says? Should Congress have to vote to declare war as the Constitution says? We've been at war for a while. Some people are still waiting on declarations. Should they be every time we go into a military conflict? You can take it any way you like. Jonathan, I think you start.
I agree that I'm a constitutionalist, and Congress should vote when we go to war. We haven't declared war, and so by the definition, we're not there at that point. We're still at conflicts, and I appreciate brave men and women fighting for us.
Okay.
Oh, yes, most certainly we should have Congress vote for a declaration of war. The Constitution is not a pick and choose of which amendment or which part of the articles that you want to apply. It's either all or nothing. Are we going to pick and choose free speech rights today, tomorrow, next week? No, this is a clear-cut issue that our founding fathers had the forthright to add into our greatest document on earth besides the Bible. So, yes, to me that's an easy question to answer. Yes, Congress should vote to declare war. So basically since 2001, we've just been in a conflict, and that conflict has cost us over $8 trillion. Lost 5,000 or 6,000 hard-fighting men and women. So I think our congressional leaders, they need to define why we're there, either vote for war or not. They swear upon their oath to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States of America. They are not doing it. They need to get on the ball. They need to read. Maybe some of them need to actually get the document out and read it. That would be a good start. I would recommend that if there's any congressman watching this show tonight, get the Constitution out, read it, understand it. You took an oath for it, so yes, they should vote. Thank you.
Okay. Stephen?
It's very unique because I've served under every president since 9/11. And so for me, what happened in 9/11, which was horrific, when we were all woken out of our sleep, when we saw radical Islamic terrorism for what it really is, we then entered into that conflict, the first wave into Afghanistan, under that declaration of President Bush. The challenge since then, because this enemy is not defined by borders, it's the first time we fought an enemy that is porous, that is in 29 countries around the world. And so I do believe we need a new declaration. I think we need to make it very clear that this war on terrorism, we call it the GWAT, the Global War on Terrorism, it started off as Operation Enduring Freedom in 9/11, it went to Operation Iraqi Freedom, and then went to Operation Inherent Resolve, and it continually changes, and we've had one, and it wasn't really a declaration of war even then back in 9/11. So I believe we need to clear the deck, make this a declaration, and it's against, in my opinion, it should be against radical Islamic terrorism, which is pervasive throughout the world, and that's the enemy we're fighting.
Okay. Any follow-ups? Everybody's good. We have one more question that has come in. I was told what it is in my ear, and you all have brought up a name very early on, and even in publicizing this, you all have tossed a name out on the
Yes.
table, so I think that's kind of what has brought this question about. If none of you beat Greg Pence in the primary election, will you support him in the general? That's the name, obviously, that has been thrown out. You all have been a little frustrated at not being able to be in the same room, but obviously this is one about party unity probably more than anything else. So would you support him in the general? And I think, Jonathan, I think you start this one. But
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
Party unity, you're right. We have a contested race here in the 6th District because our current congressman is running for Senate. We have a contested race in the 4th District because that congressman is running for Senate. And we obviously have a contested Senate race because we have 3 folks that are in there. And we do have to rally behind the candidate that will emerge from all 3 of those races and support them, whoever it may be.
Yeah.
For me, that's a up in the air question at the moment. Yes, I do want to support party, but there will be times that I will not support party. I will not be strictly a party line candidate. So if Mr. Pence does win this general primary, you know, I will have to look at his stance on all of his issues. I don't know exactly what he stands on all of his issues, you know, and then through the other debates and through his campaign websites, and then, you know, whoever does win this primary, I would like to personally meet with them, sit down and discuss them issues face to face, if possible. You know, like I stated earlier, the best way to gauge a person is sometimes shake their hands. Mm-hmm. So, you know, and then look at the Democratic candidate. It would be hard for me to support a Democratic candidate simply because of some of what their platform stands for. Some of it is strongly against my beliefs. So, more than likely, it would be whoever wins this primary, I will be behind them, but it's not for certain at this time. Thank you.
Yeah, I think there's no question that we make, when we give an oath and we sign and we would register to actually be on the ballot, we're registering as a Republican. We're not representing or registering as an independent. So therefore, we do have a responsibility to be, I think, loyal. I think one thing that does concern me, and this is where I do echo the Vice President, is I'm a Christian first, conservative second, and a Republican third. To me, the party is always a small r, Republican, just like Ronald Reagan said when I was a young boy. And so I do get concerned, and especially the way this race has been handled by the party. I'm very disturbed that there's been a deliberate attempt to push a candidate, Greg Pence. I've seen the emails to the other county chairs. It's very sad to me. But does that mean I would support a Democrat? Absolutely not. I would like to meet with Mr. Pence if he does win. Again, I've met him many times. But I want to make sure he's going to be willing to stand up to the swamp. And just as Sean Hannity said, that he's, again, a conservative first and a Republican second. That, to me, is the most important thing. Will he be willing to be courageous enough to resist the impulse to submit to the swamp?
Okay. We are probably under 6 minutes, so this is going to be pretty quick, but I'm going to kind of throw this out there just kind of as a last-minute aside. You've been out there for a few months at this. What is the thing that has surprised you or made you happy the most? So what has surprised you or what has excited you most, real quickly, about being in this race and going around and meeting people? And Jeff, I think you can start.
Probably what's excited me most is some of the feedback that I've got from some individuals. You know, some friends at work. You know, one man, he come up and spoke with me and said, I really respect you for trying to do this for the country, for the republic, for me, for everyone in this building. And this is my second forum. After the first forum up in Winchester, I actually got a call from an elderly lady that I actually helped walk in the building. And I'm more of the people person. I was out front passing out some of my handouts, and I was helping people, you know, get in the building. She needed a hand up, and she called me later the next day, and we probably spoke for 20 minutes. So that really encouraged me. And then I actually got an email from another individual that was there at Winchester, and he said he, you know, thought I'd done fairly decent, and I had some improvement points that on my speaking abilities to work on, but he actually encouraged me as well to keep fighting because he thought I had a good fight and a good message.
Okay.
So,
Can I cut it off because we're running out of time? I want to give these two gentlemen
The
some time.
greatest joy for me is the people. Meeting and seeing those faces, seeing people that are full of despair and wanting to find a way to give them hope, and people that are already in a great place in their life and they want to continue to preserve the freedom we have. I can think of a young man, his parents are great people, the Elliots. I got to go to his Eagle Scout ceremony. Cole is an amazing 14-year-old Eagle Scout, and he gives me hope that there's people like that are that focused on doing whatever they can. The service projects he's done, the people, Jill, I can think of Jill Hamilton, Heidi Presdeck, and all these great people that are giving up of their time to help people that are suffering from the opioid epidemic. So for me, the greatest opportunity and greatest joy is spending time with all these dear people in the 6th District that need someone who cares for them and will have their back and will have their six.
Jonathan.
I've had a great time traveling around the district, all 19 counties, meeting with people, hearing their issues and what we can do, and what we can do as leaders, as our representatives in Washington, what we can do to improve their lives, what we can do for jobs and to make things better for them. And made some great friends, met lots of great candidates across the race, in our race and in other races, and got to meet those candidates and what we can do to improve each individual communities, because it's not the role of the federal government to rule over us. You know, that's the power of the states, and that's the beautiful thing of our republic and our Constitution is these great people that make it up. So I've been just pleasantly surprised with all the support that we've gotten across the district.
Jeff Smith, Stephen McKenzie, Jonathan Lamb. Gentlemen, first of all, thank you very much for being here. We greatly appreciate you taking part of your evening to come sit in the WCTV studio and answer some questions. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Thank you all for putting your name on the ballot. Tyler.
Always a pleasure.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
being here.
Thank
Greatly
you.
appreciate it. We will be back next week again with another candidate forum. Want to start by reminding you that you can still register to vote. April 9th is the last day. Register in person at the Wayne County Courthouse, 2nd floor, 301 East Main Street. You can register online, indianavoters.com, or if you need more information, you can call 765-973-9304. Our In Focus candidate forums, as I mentioned, continue next week. 6 congressional district candidates on the Democrat side. Then April 12th, Republican candidates for Indiana House of Representatives, District 54 and 56. On April 19th, which Tyler will be hosting, by the way. Thank you very much, sir. On April 19th, Republican candidates for Wayne County Sheriff. And then on April 26th, Republican candidates, Wayne County Council, District 3. So put those on your calendar. Don't forget our 21 for Fun is also coming up next week. You can get tickets if you reach out to us, 973-8488. It is Easter weekend. Want to remind you that Lighthouse Assembly of God is having Forever Free tomorrow night, Saturday, and Sunday. You can see the times there on the screen. A couple of Easter egg hunts, one at Cross Point Church happening between 1 and 3. And then the Richmond Parks and Recreation Department are having their Easter egg hunt. It was postponed from last week because of the weather. Hopefully the weather will work out well for them. That's happening at Glen Miller Golf Course this week. So proceeds benefit their JUCO program. Thank you very much. This program can be seen beginning tonight in replay. You'll also find it on WGTV Online, our video on demand site. We'll be back next Thursday evening beginning at 6 p.m. with another In Focus candidate forum. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.